Hey sissies and buddies, welcome back to my channel. It's dinner time again. So welcome. And if this is your first time tuning in, welcome. Hit that subscribe button. It's going to be a lot of great things happening on this channel. If you're coming back again, like I said, it's dinner time again, and it's Taco Tuesday. So on Taco Tuesday tonight, I made some enchiladas, and I made a burrito, well, a crispy fried burrito. So we'll get into that and how I made that, and then we'll just have a little bit of conversation. So welcome to dinner time. Feeling super cute right now. It's been a really rough time for me right now. So when when it's rough, like I regress into little space. So it's been super crazy, but I'm feeling really good right now. But look at that cheese though. Hmm. Mmm. Mmm. That was good. So enchiladas. This is what I call lazy enchiladas, or where I got the term lazy enchiladas was from my auntie Annette. She passed away a little while ago, but mm, that is that is good. So you ground your ground beef in the pan, and then for me, um, I told y'all about that Larry's seasoning that I found the other day that has like, chili, oregano, limon, ground chili powder, chili flakes. It's just a whole lot of deliciousness inside of that seasoning. So I ground the ground beef down with that. And then lazy enchiladas. So the reason that you call them lazy enchiladas is because they're not rolled. Like I saw this on the Food Network, and I thought they call it an enchilada casserole. But my auntie used to make this when I was super little, and she called it lazy enchiladas. So that's what I'm gonna call it. You just lay your tortilla shells in there, and then you pour your enchilada sauce on it. Then you do meat and cheese. It's like a layering thing, kind of like lasagna, but it's with enchilada stuff. It's delicious. Mm-hmm. That is good. It's like cheesy and spicy. And then for my fried burrito, I don't know if you can see that, but it has like rice and black beans and lettuce, tomatoes, carnatas, which is fried pork. Mmm. A little bit of sour cream. Mmm. That is good. So for the rice, I made that cilantro rice that I talked about before with the onions, the cilantro, the chicken broth, and then I boiled that down, and then I just boiled down the black beans with a little bit of onion and tomatoes, a little bit of jalapeno, some garlic. Mm. Mm. And then you just pile it up, make your burrito, the lettuce, the black beans, the pork, the lettuce, tomato, cilantro, onions, salsa, cheese. Mm. So good. I love Mexican food. It's my absolute favorite. Mm. Got a little iced tea. Oh, that food is good. Oh, that's hot. Mm. Mm. So sometimes when you get out here and like big life gets to you, and I mean big life like responsibilities and things that may manifest themselves into stress and all these other all these other things that you have to go through on a daily basis. Like sometimes it becomes overwhelming. So what do you do? What do you do when regular life becomes overwhelming? For me, I tend to regress littler and littler and littler. And if you have a healthy environment where you can nurture your little and not have to hide it, you can get past that stress without it manifesting into other things like, anger or lashing out or whining or whatever it is. So today was like a movie fest for me. I was watching movies all day long. Just things that brought back like pleasant memories. Like the first movie I watched today was Low Down Dirty Shame. I hadn't seen that in so long. And I remember it was one of the movies that my granny liked because, Jada Pinkett Smith in that movie, she was still super young, and it was before she was Smith, and she was just Jada Pinkett then. And she was so feisty with her little self, and there's so much comedy involved in that movie. So I started my day off with that, and then I watched Inkwell, which was another good movie. If you like Lorenz Tate, like I love Lorenz Tate. And I had a super crush on Lorenz Tate. Not for nothing, but every girl that grew up in South Central, in the LA area, during, I'm not going to say every girl because it wasn't everybody, but it was a whole gang of us on the real that watched that movie and saw Lorenz Tate play Old Dog and was like, ooh, wait. Because it was something else. But then, for me, because I'm there, but there was always something else that was on the outside of that. So, I think my crush developed for him when I watched Inkwell. So I don't know if you ever seen the movie Inkwell, but he was like a super like dorky nerd in that movie. It came out, I think, after Boys in the Hood, but no, I say Boys in the Hood because I meant Menace to Society. But it came out after that. So I watched that movie today, and I remember like when I met him, like, I talked about living in the valley and working at that mall across the street from where my granny worked at Canoga Park High School, and that mall was called Topanga Plaza. And during that era, Topanga Plaza, like, you could be on there at any given day and you would see like super famous people, in that mall. And I worked there and I met a lot of famous people in that mall, but I think the first and only time that I was super starstruck is when I met Lorenz Tate. And it was during Christmas time, and he had came in there to get gifts wrapped. Like, he bought some stuff, and then right outside of the store that I was working in, and I was a manager in at the time, at a boutique called Claire's. And I don't know if they still have Claire's now because I haven't been in the malls in a long time. I know the icing took over, but that's a whole nother story. So right outside of the store was like a complimentary gift wrapping booth, for people that bought large amounts of stuff in the store. So I remember being in the store, and like I had my little employees there with me. And I think at this time I was like maybe 20, 21. You know, still very young, but I had, you know, had just saw Inkwell, and you know, that was after Boys in the Hood, and I was a super big fan. And then I saw Lorenz Tate, and he looked like nothing that you've seen in any other movies. Like, he had a full beard, and he had this sweatband around his head with a little afro, and he had like his little sweatsuit on and stuff. So I looked, and then I looked again, and I was like, to my friend that worked there with me, she was assistant manager. I was like, Mel, listen. She said, she said, well, I said, listen, I gotta tell you something. That's Lorenz Tate. And she had no idea who I was talking about. She was like, what? I'm like, listen, that's Lorenz Tate. He in the Topanga Plaza. He getting ready to go up there and like get his gifts wrapped. Like, do you understand the epic moment that is happening right now? She was like, I don't get it. I don't know who he is. I was like, really? You are slacking on your pivot oil. Like, you got to recognize that is Lorenz Tate out there. So, not for nothing, but I was like, I have got to go say something, because like at this point, like, I mean, you know, I met a lot of people working in that store. Like Brandy came in there, and you know, at some point, um, Brian McKnight had came in there with his daughter, and like I met a few people, you know, like Bone Thugs, like Ice Cube came in the mall. Like this mall was low key popping in the 90s, so people was in there. But this was my first time like being starstruck, and so I was like, I'm gonna go out there and say something, but I didn't know what to say, right? So I walked outside, and it was like the super stupid like groupie moment in your life. Like I walked up to him and I said, "Hi, you're Lorenz Tate," and he was like, "Yeah." Like, I know who I am, but who are you? I was just like, I'm a big fan, and I just wanted to say hi, and I super like the beard. Like, I couldn't think of anything to say. Like, my mind was blown, because I freaking love Lorenz Tate, and like, you see him on the movies, and you know, not for nothing, but he was in Menace to Society, and he had the little ponytails and stuff, and he was looking all super hardcore. And then when you see him in Inkwell, like he had the little afro, and then it translated into the braids, but it was still always like, I guess, something else than when he looked in that moment. So I was super starstruck, like, Lorenz Tate, and then he shook my hand, and then he signed a little autograph or whatever, and then he just went to wrap his gifts like it was nothing else, and I was still standing there, and he wrapped his gift, and he walked away, and I was still standing there like, what the fuck am I gonna do now? He walked away, so I went back to my store, and I was like, I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, Lorenz Tate, I just got his autograph. Like, I'm on cloud nine, and like nobody that I worked with knew who he was. I was so mad at them. Like, are you guys serious? Like, nobody knows who Lorenz Tate is? Stop it. I mean, but again, this was like, you know, I think Inkwell came out in like 97. 97, or no, not even that. It was like 95, 96. So he hadn't got to like the star power that he is right now, but yeah, I that was like one of my pivotal moments. So watching Inkwell today like took me back to that moment, like when I met him, and I was all super excited, like on super groupie status, like woo woo woo. I just met Lorenz Tate, and I came home and told my granny, because I was living with my granny at the time. I came home and told her. She was like, "I'm happy for you." Nobody cared. Nobody cared. Not a single person cared. But that was like one of the highlights of my life. But working in that mall was interesting. Like, you know, I look back on that time in my life, and, you know, I met a lot of people that were coming up, and like, or either really big at the time. And so that working in that mall was super fun. Like, I worked all over that mall. I first started at Victoria's Secret, and working at Victoria's Secret is where I met Ice Cube, because NWA was super kind of like popping at that time. And then when he came, to go shopping, people were like trailing him. So the manager of the store was like, it was around Valentine's Day, and the manager of the store was like, closed it down so he could buy stuff for his wife. It was super cute. And then, it wasn't the Topanga Plaza, but Brian McKnight came into Claire's with his daughter at the time. And again, I knew who Brian McKnight was. Nobody else. I mean, not for nothing, but there was a lot of Caucasians that were, that sounds very bad, but there was a lot of Caucasians that worked there. So, and they were young. I mean, I was young and I was a manager, so you can imagine if I was like barely pushing 21 and I was a manager, like all the employees were hella young. So they didn't know who most of these people were. And like Brandy came in there one time, and I'm trying to think who else famous came in that store. Not Ronnie DeVoe. What's that other one from Belle Biv DeVoe? Michael Bivins. No, not Michael Bivins. What's that other one? Michael Bivins. Belle Biv DeVoe. Belle. Ricky Bell. Anyway, I can't think of it right now. Late at night. I think it was Ricky Bell. Her came in there one time. I was super excited about that because I loved New Edition growing up. But it was nice, but I was not as starstruck that I was when I seen Lorenz Tate. Like, I think seeing Lorenz Tate was the only time that I felt like, Anyway, so that's how I spend my day, watching old school movies. Like, a lot of times when I fall into little space, it doesn't have a lot to do with like coloring. Sometimes it does, but it's not about coloring or cartoons or all these things, teddy bears and all that things that makes other people little. It's like taking me back to a moment in time when I was younger and like happy and like things felt right. So a lot of times when, you're living this life and working and like doing all these things that make you an adult and they freaking suck, I'll take that time to like go back to that moment and reminisce like how I felt in that moment, and search out things, whether it be a song or a playlist or a movie or, something that takes me back to that time. Even if it's a hairstyle, like I might wake up one day and feel like super little and then think about, how my hair was during that time. And then, so it's different for me. Everybody's different, but these things for me are also therapeutic because they help me through the rough times. Like, I can, not for nothing, but just like today, I was sitting feeling some type of way. Like, as soon as I woke up, I mean, I know what it was, and it's genetic. Women can't get around it. Like, sometimes, until you hit menopause, you got to deal with it, if you know what I'm saying. So a lot of times you wake up and you're just like, and So for me, instead of, the other things that people do, like lashing out or crying or like whatever, I take that time and, like, not for nothing, but it also throws me into little space. And then I will find things to get me through that, like I said, watch the movies, reminisce on times, think about things that were good, and then it just takes me out of that funk. So that goes back to that self healing. Like, you learn yourself enough to know that you can feel well, for me, I could feel the emotion coming on. I could feel it taking over. Like, I wake up and I roll over, and my face is like, like that girl on I like that girl on I'm gonna get you, sucker. I got cramps. And then instead of like lashing out and like biting someone's head off, like, I find a space that makes me feel better. Like, if it's a movie, like I said, a movie, a song, you know, a book, like, not for nothing, but growing up, I love, so corny. It's so corny. But I love the Laura Ingalls Wilder's series of books. Like, yes, it was a show called Little House on the Prairie, but long before that happened, it was a series of books. So I've downloaded those books, and I remember that was the first series of books I ever read, and I think I started in the 5th grade, and that was the first series of books that I read, and